Um, the meeting's being recorded, and therefore I'm just going to try and hide everyone who's on there, just because otherwise you end up being seen. We've got a few members of the staff as well, so if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. The team will be able to help you. A few bits of housekeeping. The meeting's being recorded. Also, I guess I hope everyone's keeping well and sort of looking forward to getting some sort of normality back to life. I know there's some businesses on here that have already started. I know there's some businesses that never closed, and there's some businesses that are about to start on the 8th, or which is Monday, or even slightly later. Um, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for joining us and spending some time this afternoon uh, with us to go through what I believe is a critical path um, going forward, and something that we're all entering into choppy waters. Um, I need to put in my standard caveats. Any advice that is given is to the best of our ability, but the stuff is changing very quickly, and please seek professional advice before acting on anything in this presentation. Um, the agenda today is a five-step plan. What is leadership thing anyway, and why is it so important? What are the trading realities? Um, how to lead yourself and how to lead your business, how to lead your team, and how to lead your clients and customers. I suspect point 2 and 4 would probably be where we're spending a lot of our time this afternoon. I want to make it interactive, so if you've got any questions, feel free to ask, uh, and we will be answering them as we go along. I will have my chat box open, so that's possible. Um, if we start off with what is this leadership thing and why it's so important, I just want to, literally talk about what is the difference between leadership. It is deciding where to take and steer the ship as opposed to just driving it. Management is making sure that the ship is set up to sail and to get it to the right destination. Now, why I say this is important, um, because the problem is the situation is changing rapidly every day, right? We're hearing one thing, we're having deadlines thrown at us every single day. For example, the 10th is the deadline when you can furlough your staff for the last time, if they've never been furloughed before. 30th of June is the deadline where you've got to make the submissions for furlough, for them to ensure that everyone is then able to claim furlough through July, August, September, October. So things are changing rapidly, and how I guess the other problem is how to know where to steer the ship. Um, Look, it is it is difficult. We're all in uncharted waters. We're all learning to fight this storm one bit at a time. But the point of having us, or your professional advisors, or your trusted network, is so that you can have a place to bounce off any ideas that you may have if you're not sure, but also to pick up things that your peers are doing. For example, I'm part of a membership body of an accounting group, not just the ICAW and the ACCA, but as a smaller group of um, accountants. And one of the things that we are picking up is some of the communications that need to go out. We're literally sharing that amongst the group. So we're all sort of dividing and conquering this problem. Um, so here's what we know about the trading realities for the next 12 to 24 months. It is not a 3-month blip, right? Uh, there's got to be some form of social distancing, probably until Christmas, if not longer. Obviously, my thoughts and the reality is until a safe vaccine can be found, things will not get back to normal. Um, there's no other way, and it'll be a very difficult thing eating out, traveling abroad, meeting up in larger groups. We've seen that happen. Um, Something to learn from China. Then they're saying people are not going straight back to their life before the lockdown. Now we know this is where it started. Therefore, in theory, this is where it should end first. But it's gone. It's still coming back in bits and pieces. But life is not getting back to normal as quickly. And even if it did, people are not going straight back to work. Um, so who are the winners and losers of all this? I guess, the winners are the pharmaceutical companies, the telecoms, home entertainment, because we're all sitting at home. We need some entertainment. So Netflix, Disney's come up with their own version. I know there's a few others. The farmers, home education, manufacturing, food, so takeouts, delivery companies, etc., e-commerce, and again, delivery companies. On the other hand, the losers, as we all know, or I don't want to use the word losers, although the slide deck has it, the people that are going to have to work even harder are the aviation company, the tourism, the printers, the leisure companies, property companies, car industries, gyms, sports clubs, uh, beauty salons, hotels. uh, And we're at the start of a global recession if we're not already in it. There is a stat that someone sent to me this morning, and I had seen as well, that we expect redundancies to shoot up, especially in the next week, um, and that will have a direct impact on people's disposable income, and the consumer spending will decrease significantly. Um, House prices will reduce. We expect that, likely to last a minimum of a year. I know there's people on this call that expect it to go on a bit longer than that. But I think at least a minimum of a year. As much as I was an optimist when this whole kicked off, I think for us as a business, we're going to start to see the crunch of the pain in January, February, the following year, 2021. So again, just reminding people that, look, you might not see the pain now, but you might see the pain slightly later on, but it's going to come if it's not already been there. Um, Interest rates are likely to remain low. The supply of credit will be cheap, but it will contract. These bounce back loans, the CBILS loans, they're going to start to fade away. Remember, the government has put a limit on the amount it can lend as a total to the banks. So I know that these amounts will start to contract because at some point the money will dry up. Uh, but on the other hand, there's an opportunity to buy some businesses that are going on at a cheaper rate. So the businesses, the business owners out there, the business men and women, there's an opportunity to buy these businesses at a much reduced rate. Um, so where do we go with this, and where do we go with the whole situation? Um, I think first and foremost, the most important thing is you need to lead yourself. So before you do anything, uh, look at leading yourself. Um, and the reason is simple. You're no good to anyone if if you're emotionally stressed and you can't see the wood for the trees, right? So we've got to uh, you've got to be in a position, where you've got clarity in your head. You've got clarity about what the plans and objectives are. Uh, and from a business perspective, it's really simple. Before you can assess you need to have your books and records up to date. Uh, there's no point in trying to work out an action plan especially when it comes to cash flow, if you do not know what you're owed, you do not know what you owe, and you do not know what costs are essential to your business. I did a webinar 2 weeks ago where we talked about what costs are essential, what costs we can do away with, and what costs we should, we say are, stepped. We can do without, but the business wouldn't work as efficiently as we hoped it would. Um, you know, because everything is moving very quickly, even a week could make a massive difference. And I've seen this when we went into lockdown. I've said to the team, we're lucky the measures we took in 2017, about 3 years ago, some of the measures we took enabled us to be very flexible and literally take our computers home and work the very next day straight up and running with no hiccups. uh, so, it's all about, no one had this foresight, but it's all about making sure that, your business is well positioned to move on from this and move out of this. Uh, I want to take you through the emotional cycle of change, um, and how you can speed the journey through this emotional cycle of uh, change. Um, we all start off by a level of denial, and I know the team, when you speak to them initially back in early March, I myself was at that denial stage where I was like, look, this thing is not, yes, of course it's serious, but we can't live in fear like this, and therefore we're going to continue coming into the office as long as we're sensible about making sure we wash our hands, etc. uh, I then went into that stage of anger and anxiety where when we moved home, it was almost that frustration. Um, and on the surface, it was very conflicting that I really don't want to be home. I need to get this done. Uh, until I sort of got to the bottom where actually I started to rationalize and accept that this virus was very serious, and actually it's become the norm. Um, I've been on a number of Zoom calls now with clients, suppliers, uh, third-party business partners that we work with, and I've had my daughter walk into the Zoom meeting and said hello. So it's become a norm. We're all working together to build the plans for the to be, and it's accepted. I have my daily catch-up calls with the team, and even with that, we've had instances where we've had a couple of members of the team who are moms saying, look, hey, I just need to pop out because my son's got, or my daughter's got an assembly that I need to attend with him on Zoom. It's fine. It's become the norm. It's become acceptable. um, I still don't think sitting in pajamas is bottoms is as acceptable as people may think it is, but um, it'll be a time when that will be acceptable as well. So hopefully we'll get there very quickly. And we personally, I feel we're now at this stage where we're on the growth and on the sort of verge of growing out of and accepting this norm and saying, look, it is what it is. How do we grow the business? And I think speaking to a lot of our clients, they're all sort of starting to fall in this acceptance and growth category, which is good, because then we're all positive, and as leaders, as business owners and leaders, we're at that stage where we can say, right, let's crack on. This is what it is, and let's make decisions around what we need to do. So again, just to give you a real life example, um, Bharat, my business partner, and I have been having conversations around office space. Do we need this much more office space now that everyone's becoming used to working from home? I've had conversations with the team saying, look, when are we coming back? And, the team members are saying, do we really need to come back as often as every day or every other day? Yeah, as long as we're working remotely, we're okay. Uh, Now, I appreciate not all businesses can do that, um, but should we be looking at least some members of the team working remotely? So again, I know we have a variety of businesses out on this call, but if you're someone that sort of teaches, um, carries out some sort of leisure activity for clients, like a personal trainer or a coach, can you do that over Zoom and have once a quarter or once every half year meets? Um, or if you're an office-based business, are you able to have a couple of your admin team work from home so that you're saving desk space? Can you merge two or three of the offices into one location and all at the same time have some members of the team work from home? Or can you centralize some of your admin functions or your finance function, whatever those functions are? I think once you're at that stage where you've got some sort of clarity, um, you can start to lay out the plans for the future. Um, and 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 that is really leading on to how to speed up that journey of change, of taking you through the emotional cycle of change. Give yourself time to think, to really think, and acknowledge what you have lost, because that will put that to ease. um, Embrace the uncomfortable reality head on. What is the reality and what is the worst case scenario? What is not coming back? But then talk to your trusted inner circle. And it says, and or work with a coach. But talk to people that you really trust and bounce your ideas off there. Um, and accept that you're on a journey right now. And it is just one of those things that we have choices we can still make. Um, However, whatever those choices are, but they are choices we can make. And often this analysis is best to an extent if you work with a team. It's done with the team because they may throw some ideas on a practical level that you actually think, may oh, I didn't really think of that. um, or it could be, or the team could be your external voice of reason and suggesting these stuff that like our example where I've asked the team when are they coming back, and they're saying, look, we don't really need to come back. So actually, to me, what I thought about having a remote sort of, or a remote member of staff or remote members of staff, it's my fear has always been, you know being distant from the team, from that member of staff. How will they cope if they have any questions? How easy will it be for them to access me or another member of the team to bounce their ideas off each other, or to say, I'm not quite sure how this works, can you explain that? That is all sort of, with time, with what has happened, sorting itself out. But the team have suggested that, these are ways of doing it. So, your team is there as your external voice for the reason. Um, the other thing I need recognize you can have is good and bad days. We all have that, but it's all about acknowledging, and it's fine to have good and bad days. Um, and that's what it is. Um, I had an awful day on Wednesday gone, and pretty much went quiet on a couple of things I had to do. But it's just one of those days I was having. I was supposed to call a client, and I just messaged saying, "Look, not in a state of mind to talk right now. Let's pick up tomorrow." It's fine. Everyone acknowledges that and accepts that. Um, Prioritizing self-care, I think it's important because you can't drink from an empty cup. So you've got to make sure you're well, you're fit. Your mental toughness and resilience is key, now and in the immediate future. So again, going back to the emotional change diagram, you've got to accept that, well, if you're on that acceptance, your optimism will increase. But we're all in this together, so let's How do we come out of this is the key bit. Um, and prioritize the four foundational habits that are the foundation of good mental and physical health. Get enough sleep, exercise, recharge, eat well, and drink well. Um, we're all guilty of this. Clients that talk to me know that I'm working till very late or I start very early. Uh, it's very important to get that exercise, get that sleep, get that family time. Um, and everyone has different sleep requirements, etc. But a combination of the four foundational habits, do that. Go out for a walk. You'll be amazed how many good ideas you get, or a run for that matter. um, so yeah, prioritize self-care and get your head in the right place to make those decisions. Being in a scared and anxious stress state will stop you from accessing the creative parts. uh, Take time out, focus, do your mindful activities, uh, consider your why and purpose. Why do you run your own business in the first place? Yes, we're all in business to make profits and money, but actually, what was it that drove you from your previous role into why you're running this business? And work out the options. If you are not to run your own business, what would your fallback option be? You know, um, and it might be, I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to go and work for someone. You know, fine. It's perfectly okay. So feel free to do that. Right. So how to lead your business right now? I guess businesses which move quickly will be the ones who survive and thrive. Um, Everything is a best guess for everyone right now. We don't know uh, what's the best option. Who knew toilet rolls? If you had a toilet roll factory or manufacturing, or even some stock of toilet rolls, you would have been able to make ridiculous amounts of money just before the lockdown started. So the key is to find your equivalent of the toilet roll in the current crisis. And everything is a best guess right now. Um, but you always have choices that could work. Which one of this could work for you? Do you grow? Do you adapt to survive and potentially grow? Do you contract until you're ready to grow? Or do you close the business? Um, it is the harsh reality, but that is one of the options. But the first decision to take is, how much is my business impacted, right? My business is accelerating and its growth. Some disruption is likely to be there, but we'll operate and we will have a little impact overall. Or actually, my business is got a low impact, possibly in the short term, but with 10 to 30% of the revenue lost and uncertainty about the future. Uh, or to the fourth, which is high impact with 40% business loss and potentially unable to trade right now. Um, I think those of you on the call right now are probably in uh, some one of these two. There's some disruption, or there is some low impact, but there is an impact. Um, I will check who else is on the call, but there could be some businesses that are actually in that accelerating, and there are some that are completely, right at the far right, where things have taken a toll. Um, every business, no matter where, no matter what time, whether it's COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, will be going through this journey. They've got to survive, you've got to adapt, you've got to thrive. If you're a business that's going to sit still in any market, you're going to be left behind by your competitors, right? And we've acknowledged that ourselves. We've acknowledged and I'll openly say this to a lot of our clients, we had to do something on our end because a lot of our client base was of that at that age where they were sort of retiring or in the process of retiring, and if we kept still, we wouldn't have carried on with our business as we are. So Bharat and I myself recognized this and said, look, let's go out and deal with probate matters. Because actually, A, it's not only a completely different market, but we can carry on with the relationships we've built over time and the trust we've had from our client base. And I must admit, our very loyal client base, and we are so grateful for that, that we can help them through whatever scenario that they have. Um, and at the moment, businesses are adapting or are starting to enter the phase of adaptation and pivoting. Um, at the early stage as well, I must add, they're not towards the thrive end, but they're more towards the adapting for survival purposes. Um, when you're in the survival stage, I think the key is to stay calm and keep in contact with suppliers and customers and network. Review your financials, do your contingency plans and a 30-day action plan. Bring together your trusted team, whether it's the leadership team in the office or your external advisors. Look after the mental and physical health of both yourself and your team, and repair any broken process and system so that you can work from home or improve your efficiencies as you come out of this. Now I know, and I won't name names, um, I know I've been working very closely with one or two of the clients on this call, and we have really looked at the connection with suppliers and customers, as well as looking at the financials. Perhaps what we've not done together is the 30-day action plan. But we've looked at repairing any broken processes as well. So again, I'm not saying we've completed that, but we're in the process, and the key is to identify and have an action plan around it. Um, at the adaptation or a pivoting stage, it's more review your why and your vision for the business. What do you see your vision for the business? Stay in close contact with your customers and the client base. Identify the opportunities for the business. Change your systems and processes to adjust to the new normal. Um, adapt your business model if required. Review your resources needed and how you need them. And eliminate any unnecessary overheads, including low performance staff. Um, I had a call just before I got onto this. Um, sorry, no, it was actually yesterday afternoon. I had two calls, one with a client, sorry, both with a client, but one with a client that's a restaurant, and they were looking at going back in on the 4th of July. And, we were sort of talking about the furlough and how this flexible furlough scheme operates. Um, and the immediate answer was, look, you're going to have social distancing. You got to have reduced capacity. Have you looked at your reduced rota of people that you get in at the restaurant? So you will need your chef. You will need your head chef, perhaps. Maybe you won't need your head chef. Um, you will need 2 out of your 4 waiters, waitresses at the top to man the tables, but you definitely don't need all 4. Do you need to do a better rota, or do you leave 2 furloughed, or do you completely make 1 redundant because they were a low performer anyway? Um, so it's those difficult questions that you've got to ask, and each business is unique in itself. And I can't even say, look, every industry or every similar industry or similar firms in the industry have the similar issues. Of course they will, but every business is unique. Each hotel, each restaurant will have its own unique selling points, or should have its own unique selling points, and therefore come unique problems with that. So again, feel free to talk to us about that. But as you come out of the adaptation and the pivoting stage, you enter the thrive. This is where you put your growth plan in place. You stay in close contact with your customer and your client base. You hold regular planning meetings to see what needs to change going forward. You keep your financials tightly under control, including cost. Um, and it could simply mean, you need management accounts on a monthly basis as opposed to a 3 monthly basis. You know, uh, it could mean I need something done on a weekly basis as opposed to a monthly basis. Or it could mean actually, I'm controlling my spending because do we really need to buy something? And I'll give you, I, I don't want to sound sexist, but I'll give you a classic example. We had our iPad at home is about 8, 9 years old. Um, and I was like, oh, I need a new gadget to play around. So I was like, let me order an iPad. And I was talking to my wife, and she was like, Shailin, this is not the time to be spending money. Do we really need it? How often are you going to use the iPad? And I was like, well, the iPad's not for me. It's for you. It's for the kids. She's like, she's 4. She probably only needs it for half an hour a day at most. But keep your financials tight, including your spending. Um, Accelerate development of future leaders of the business. Um, I say this jokingly to my friends. A few of them have been furloughed, and I was like, I wish I was in your position because I want to do some bits of training which I never get around to. Get paid 80%. I'm happy if I get 80% of my drawings. I'm happy to sit at home. Um, and but the key is to use that time effectively because there's a few courses I wanted to do just from a CPD perspective. But that is it. Accelerate that development for your leaders. Uh, sort of, I've talked about what we cannot do, or where you are on your business journey, whether you're surviving, whether you're sort of adapting to things, or whether you're looking at growing out of adaptation and going into the thrive straight state. The key is you need your trusted advisors. You need your trusted network. You need your trusted people you can talk to, and that could be family members. Like in my case, my wife, I spoke to her about the iPad. How can we help as your trusted advisors? um, we can help with cash flow forecasting, scenario planning, business planning, including remodeling, and just be that sounding board. We all need someone to talk to. We can be here to bounce any ideas off. uh, we can shift the model. It's a matter of finding that creativity. It might be shifting your client base, from looking at, um, for example, plumbers to property people. I don't know. There's various things, and I want to, I'm happy to talk to each of you individually should you have those and should you need us to sound those ideas. Uh, and how to adapt and thrive? Well, I guess I mentioned it. Your aim is to find that business version of the toilet roll, right? Uh, Sorry, I skipped through quickly. It's to find that toilet roll in this current climate, right? Uh, we have a client who's a restaurant, and they had Mother's Day coming up. This was beginning of March. They had pre-booked themselves for tables, and suddenly they were getting cancellations, which they had to refund the deposits for. Or take it to a different angle. Let's arrange tea at home. Why don't we come and give you that our quality food to your doorstep, and you can have your Mother's Day at home? So I think about 60 or 65 people, percentage of the tables booked took up that offer, which is which is great. They've managed to, I wouldn't say they've found the toilet roll, but they've managed to adapt and change and think about that shift. What can we do differently? Um, we've got we've got we sorry, I'm just trying to mute. Uh, we've got I lost my chain of thought, but if it comes back, I will certainly highlight it. Um, there was something else that came up. I saw a client earlier this morning. That's what, and they were dropping off their VAT papers for the following quarter. And I just said, "Look, how's the business going?" Because I know they're operational, and they said, "Actually, takeaway business has been brilliant. We're still bringing in what we used to bring in when we had the restaurant fully open." So, you know, it is brilliant because the overheads on staffing, for example, which is one of the largest overheads, has drastically reduced because all they need is the chefs and maybe two front of desk. So you can change. That's the key bit. Uh, take Dyson. They're manufacturing ventilators. Pubs are offering takeaway meals. Um, your intended marketplace you can look at. So you can change your product or your service, or you can change your marketplace, uh, or you can change how you get your product to your marketplace. So, for example, selling it online, um, or how you deliver it. So, again, going back to the scenario of delivering that Mother's Day uh, feeling to your doorstep as opposed to taking them into the restaurant. Uh, we've got another restaurant that's been doing really well because they changed from going from having a sort of in-house restaurant to just doing pizzas, and it's just pizzas, stone baked, and they've got queues outside, you know, taking to collect, which is brilliant because it's giving them that publicity that these guys are really busy, so the food must be great. But actually, they've adapted and continue to have that source of income coming in. Um, I want to talk about the Ansoff matrix. This is where you talk about market development, you've talked about market penetration, product development, and the diversification. So do your research because what are your customers telling you? Market penetration is often the easiest thing, right? You sell more of your same product to the same market. But at the moment, this is difficult for a lot of people. So do we then change the product? So we sell a different product to the same people. That's the second easiest option. Or do we take the diversification route where we repackage our products and our skills into a different market? So going back to that catering, going to Dyson, for example, rather they've diversified. They've gone from making hoovers and vacuum cleaners to making ventilators. That's a completely different product, but they're taking effectively the same skill. Or just completely doing a complete market development, so changing your sales channels. So for example, if you're a hotel that sells to uh, 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 overseas individuals, do you actually turn it so that you're changing it so that you're renting your rooms to a nearby hospital, for example, because they've got nurses, doctors, etc., that need a place to stay because they're working ridiculous shifts. Um, so it's looking at that, and of course, that might be easier said than done, but you've got to give that thought. Um, do your research. So what are your customers telling you? From your own experience, what is your business or your friends, your family personally wanting to buy, and why? How are your habits and pastime changing? Right? What happens when family or households stay at home for a long period of time? Home improvements, uh, divorce rates increase. I certainly hope that's not the case, but the stats out there that say that. What is social media telling you about what people are thinking? So the point with all this is to take time out to think about your business, right? Think about how you can do things differently, and sometimes you just need that space to 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 do. and it's a combination of making sure mind your mind is in a positive state, and having that conversation with yourself is a lot easier. And then we're here to help you. I mean, we're here to help you anyway, but you're here for you to bounce off, no matter how silly that idea is. You'd rather someone gives you that honest feedback, and again, we are here for that. um, do a step-led analysis. So again, I'll put it all up so that you can see. uh, do a social. What are people saying? More people are staying at home. Do you need to enter into that commercial market, for example? Technology, again, a lot of people on the Zoom call, for example. I mean, we now have our community prayers on Zoom. I would have never thought that would have been the case. But actually, what we're seeing is a lot more global participation, because you've got family, friends around the world. And if sadly, if you've lost someone, now they're able to log into Zoom and have those prayers with you. Um, but also off the back of that, what I've seen is, where you have um, the singers that are coming into sort of normal, that would come into to the venue and sing, uh, or help with the prayers, are now global. You can get someone, off in a different country, different time zone, and they're happy to conduct this on Zoom, which is an interesting concept, because suddenly you might be paying someone else, or you might not even be paying someone else, because I've got an aunt that sings, but she's abroad. Or I would have never got her to come here to sing at some prayers. Actually, she's now doing it from so those kinds of things we're starting to see. Um, Ethics, again, you can't be seen to be profiteering, um, because obviously the government has got these guidelines about making complaints about people that are profiteering. Um, where are we with Brexit? Again, will that be probably be put to a back burner for a while? Again, legal and regulatory. So if you're going to reopen, have you got the right signage, etc. Right? Um, and what happens with a recession, right? Um, we're looking at this from a positive angle and saying, look, if we want to grow our team, there's probably good talent out there to hire. Um, so there's a lot of things there's a lot of positive things that could come out of it. Again, evaluate your potential options. How connected is it to your why and your purpose? How easy is it to implement? How long will it take? How much money will it need? What resources do you need? What is it going to what is going to stay the same or change? Right? Make a choice of what you and your businesses are doing, or what are going to do rather. Um, and failing to make a decision, and you'll have chosen to let your business die again. And sometimes that may be the right option. I don't know. Let's have a conversation about it first. um, Conduct your risk analysis. Again, consider some scenarios. What happens if school don't go back until September? I know that things are slowly starting to get back into shape, but what if there was a big talk about getting I think it was the aviation and the more so the hotel alliance that were talking about lobbying with the government about the 14-day quarantine, because that would uh, put travelers off. And I myself was one of the travelers that got put off. We were meant to fly out, but I said, look, whilst the airspace was open, we could have flown out. But I said, there's no point if I'm going for a holiday for 2 weeks, that I'm going to be stuck 2 weeks in a quarantine or in a hotel, or I'll have to self isolate. Again, um, we've got to look at that. Look at your unions, or your again, I referred to the Hotel Alliance as one example. But what are those bodies doing? What is the BDA doing, for example, for the dentists on the call? Um, So what are your risks? How high are they? Are they high, medium, low? What would the impact on the business of this risk happening be? And are you therefore adequately covered? And which ones can you accept or avoid? And which ones need to be managed? I suspect a lot of the risk can be, um, well, a lot of the risk would need to be managed. Um, uh, and therefore, how do you manage those? Put together your business plan. What is your to be? How will you measure it? How much investment will you need? Who will you need to support you through this? Uh, what is your current circle of people? How critical is it? Your staff, your suppliers, your customers, your network? What are your first steps in making this happen? I'm sure I haven't seen any questions pop up, but if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the group chat. I've got Kavi who's on the line, Mina's on the line. So you can either send them to me or you can send it to them, and they'll sort of collate that and pass them on for me at the end of the session to go through. Um, yeah. So how to lead your team? I guess is the next question. Again, your team will be going through this emotional cycle of change. Talk to them about it. Uh, Talk to them about what is it, and again, communicate, communicate, communicate. Don't avoid the hard truths. If you've got money that is owed to you or that you owe money, for example, talk to the suppliers, talk to those customers. Uh, Treat your team like an adult. Share your thinking and also your fact that you're feeling scared, vulnerable, emotional. They're probably in it the same as well. So talk to them, empathize, explain that we're all in it together, and if necessary, show how you're taking a financial hit along with the team. So by that, I mean if you need to show them your profit and loss, show it to them. Um, I would be very skeptical, but it in I mean with us we've done that. I've done that with my team. The team have access through my profit and loss account. If they ever want to see it, they're more than happy to see it. Show up more regularly, more team and staff briefings, be present on the chat channels. Again, we have a daily Zoom call at 9:30 every single day. Just sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour. And it's not necessarily about clients. It's about what how are they, how is they doing, do they need anything. I'm going shopping today, does anyone need anything urgently? I'm happy to drop it off. It's literally those conversations that we have. um, the one thing we haven't done is a quiz over Zoom, but perhaps Bharat can organize a bingo session, if he wants to. I know we had a little sort of very informal catch up with the team. Just we put aside an hour about 3 weeks ago, and that was none work related, just completely chilled out. But that's it, right? It's all about having that social interaction that way. And be present on the chat channels. I mean, I tell the team I'm always available on WhatsApp or Microsoft Teams, or just a phone call away. And I do get phone calls from the team members. um, Everyone will have good days, as I said. Everyone will have bad days, but it's watch out for the people who are going quiet right now. Um, I'd like to think I've spoken to a lot of you during the lockdown, some more so than the others. Uh, if I haven't, I apologize, and I'll try and give you a call at some point. Um, but it's all about sort of bouncing those ideas off. Uh, your role as a leader is to help your team deliver on their priorities right now. And those priorities may be some priorities that you've set, like how to adapt the business. Um, and allocate a portion of your day to catch up with your immediate team. I would also add your family as well. Have that phone call. Um, Be more directive. I think uh, as business owners, sometimes we're very controlled nature, but right now is probably a good time to have that, right? What you need your individuals and and their teams to focus on. What does success look like for you? What are the short-term priorities for the whole business? What needs to be delivered? And then finally, if it's possible, let your team get on with it, because your team is to set the course. Your team is for your business and to ensure your team executes that, right? Um, what are the short-term priorities for the whole business and individuals? And give your team the opportunity to try and fail, right? No action is worse than the wrong action. I always say version 1 is better than version none. The team have heard me say it before. So um, you want to empower your team to use their initiative and not be scared of failure. Treat each different outcome to what was planned as a learning opportunity. And we then sort of talk about leading your customers and clients. And I think the key here becomes communicate. Again, don't leave the hard truths. Treat your customers like an adult. Explain, the consequences of, explain how they can access your business's services and what you have done to reduce your COVID-19 risk. Share your thinking and the facts how you're feeling. Empathize and explain that we're all in it together. Share expectations, show them how they can still work or buy from your business. Explain how best to contact your business. So again, uh, when you call our offices, the calls are rerouted to an individual, and the individual sort of says, "Look, someone will come back to you, but watch out, it will be from a no number." The call, because the calls are coming out from a mobile, it'll be from a withheld number. But it's about informing your customers that that's what you're going to do. Um, Keep them updated on major changes to your trading arrangements. Again, you know the estate agents have been good. I know there's some that are doing sort of virtual viewings where one member of the lettings team may be sort of taking a live Zoom call with potential tenants around the premises, so they can know how it feels to walk through. Um, and I know there's some deals off the back of that have happened. Um, and keep updated. I think, again, going back, communicate, communicate, communicate. Um, as a summary, we don't know what the new normal is, but we know we're heading into a recession. Um, we know that social distancing of some form or another is going to happen, at least until the end of 2020. You need to step up and lead yourself, your business, your team, and your customers and clients right now. And the longer you leave to take a decision on what to do with your business, the more chance you won't have a business going forward. You want to be in control to make that decision. And finally, what we can do to help you. So think through your options, cost your options out, put together a business plan, introduce you to our network of help, access funding and investment. So one of the things we've started doing now as an organization is loans. So we're able to look at uh, going into the alternative market and look at loans for your clients. So for our clients rather. So what we can't do is advise you on loans because that's a regulated matter, but we can give you the options to say, look, you don't need to go to a broker or 10 different banks. We can do it with you in-house. Um, Keep you accountable and support to make your plans turn into a reality, and help you wind down the business if that's really what you want. Um, Thank you. We've got some time to take questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. You can unmute yourself or and ask your questions. There's a few people on the call still, so
Hi, Sharon, sorry. Could you
hi.
give
Yep.
some information on being self-employed?
Sure, sure. So the first round of grants has already been issued by the government towards the beginning of May, if I recall correctly, middle of May, rather, I beg your pardon. The rules around the second round of grant, which Rishi Sunak announced a couple of Fridays ago, the regulations for that are due out on the 12th of June from the latest update. But from what we understand, it's got to be 70% as opposed to 80%. So effectively, uh, if you work out, that works out 10% less than what you got. Sorry, it's not 10% less off what you got, but it's 10% less than, so I'm just doing the maths off the top of my head, but it's 10% less of the 100% that you got last time out. Um, we will be sending communications out. I did one yesterday on the second round of furlough scheme. Unfortunately, that's all we had at the moment. I'd rather sort of send you more comprehensive once we know, rather than, hey, they've announced this and more details to follow. But yeah, Shetal, I'm sorry, that's all I have at the moment. But watch the space. I'm expecting something on the 12th, and probably by the 14th, we should have something sent out to our self-employed.
Thank you.
I have a question that's popped up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. And hi, Shailene, I need help on employment side, redundancy settlement agreement, etc. Do you do that? Can I take that with you offline, because I need to understand a little bit more about that. If you can either drop me your number or give us a call straight after this webinar, and I'll sort of pick up your details and give you a call back shortly after that. Because I only say I'll pick up your details because your call will go to the receptionist as the calls are being diverted at the moment. If there are any further questions, if not, I'm going to stop the recording as we've just hit 1:59. Oh, bang on. Once again, thank you for your time. Feel free to get in touch with us if you want to bounce off any ideas, any thoughts, any questions you have around whether you should be doing something or not. Happy to have a chat, and look forward to hearing or speaking to you all in the future. Keep safe, keep well, and I think look after yourselves first. Thank you.